Welcome everybody. We're at ARC Forum with Ravi Subramanyan from HiveMQ. Tell us a little bit, what are your one key takeaway from ARC Forum and what is HiveMQ showing here?
Yeah, so one key takeaway is there's a huge need for data, right? There's a huge need for innovation, and vendors like HiveMQ are in the thick of things to help customers out, right? And of course, I would be lying if I say that only we can solve the problem. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of us, right? And it's up to us to come together as a vendor community to bring together some good reference architectures that will help end customers out, right? Maybe in oil and gas or process manufacturing or whatever the use case may be, right? So that's the one key takeaway I found, Lucian.
Thank you for that. And that actually, that bringing together that standardization has been part of the discussion this week. There's still a lot of progress, but still a lot more work to be done.
Yes.
Now, I know in particular you folks are focusing on MQTT and Sparkplug, and maybe just bring our audience a little bit up to speed on how is MQTT evolving in support of edge computing and manufacturing, and what are some of the unique advantages they offer in real-time data processing, because everyone's focused on data.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just give a quick, brief history on MQTT for people that don't know, right? So MQTT is like a message protocol that started, actually it stands for Message Queue Telemetry Transport, but nobody uses that. Everybody calls it MQTT these days. So it started in the late 90s for an oil and gas use case for Phillips 66. They wanted to be able to connect the remote assets to their enterprise. And so, but they had issues with the bandwidth, with connectivity, and just from a safety perspective, it was very unsafe for employees or workers to be there, right? So they're like, can we actually bring the data out to the enterprise so that they can be remotely monitored, right? So they can cut down on costs, save on, from a safety incident perspective, reduce it and things like that. So they went to IBM. So a couple people from IBM, Arlen Nipper, and who's very active in the Sparkplug community as well, and Andy Stanford Clark. The two of them created this MQTT protocol as a publish subscribe, which is basically using any little bandwidth that you have, you can publish the data on a particular topic to a broker, and then the broker can then share that information on the same topic with other clients that need to get that information on that same topic, right? I could be like some system, right? Like let's say ERP system that needs a piece of sensor data or a PLC data to be able to make a decision. I don't have to keep polling for that directly with the PLC or the sensor. I can just subscribe to that through the broker, and I get that. So naturally, that was like a great solution for that particular oil and gas use case. It became an open standard in 2010, right? And since then, a lot of people have been developing solutions on top of that and also contributing to it like us, right? I mean, Oasis Foundation is the open source foundation that took it up. We are part of it. We contribute to it. We truly believe in like making sure that we have standardized approaches when it comes to sending and receiving data, because it cuts down on a lot of heartache and costs for customers, right? And it standardizes a lot of things. We're betting on MQTT, and one of the things that MQTT has done over the time is it's kind of like branched off into many different aspects of IoT. Namely, like say reliability. I mean, it has a lot of features built in to help with reliability. Safety, I know that's safety and security, I know that's something that we've been talking about. It's already built in a lot of smarts around that area. Now, obviously, cybersecurity is a journey, right? I mean, nobody can say that I'm all done with it, but MQTT is the right step towards ensuring that your communication is totally secured. And of course, you can put other things around that to make sure that it's even more secure.
Thank you for the updates, and we'll double click on that. And thanks for mentioning Arlen. He will be in Energy Day with us, and perhaps manufacturing soon. Perhaps maybe discuss a little bit. I mean, at ARC, a number of the sessions, actually, the majority they focus on machine learning and AI.
Yes.
And maybe just what are some of the potential of MQTT facilitating machine learning applications?
Yes, absolutely. So at the end of the day, you want to do all of these, the generative AI or just other kinds of AI, machine learning and algorithm development and things like that, right? Everything needs data. The key thing about that is like you need real-time data, right? You need good data, good quality data at the right time, right? And that's kind of like, and you need data from multiple different sources, right? It's obviously machine data coming from your PLCs and sensors and gateways and other devices. but you also need data from, say, the ERP system, you need data from Historian, you need data from other ELM systems and other systems, right? And it's hard for the application to be able to poll for information from all of these different systems. And this is where MQTT comes in. You can actually create a single source of truth, because MQTT is like a broker that can talk to publishers, publishing clients, and subscribing clients. So you can create that unified namespace, as we call it, which is basically what it is you basically take the ISA 95 architecture, which is basically that layered architecture in the factory floor, which talks about how the different devices and applications are organized, and then you map that to the MQTT topics namespace. And then so now you have a single definition and a contextualized definition or information on all of your data, and the most up-to-date value of all of that pieces of information in one location. So it becomes easy for your machine learning applications or your AI and ML applications to then tap into that MQTT UNS to be able to get the data it needs to be able to do things, right? So absolutely, something like an MQTT and a UNS is key to be able to do those things, and that's kind of like what we saw during this event as well, where you can do all of that, but you also need good data to be able to do all of those applications.
I know in the context of MQTT, you talked a little bit about the security, and you mentioned good data and reliable data. Now, what about some of the advancements in the security of the MQTT?
Right. So MQTT inherently has security built in my opinion, because it is a publish-subscribe based technology, and the publish happens on specific topics. Now, you publish on a certain topic and you receive on a certain topic. Guess what? If you're not subscribed to that topic, you never get that information. So any rogue players that can potentially sniff in, still cannot get that information because you're not subscribed to that topic. Now, there are other more sophisticated ways to make that secure, right? User ID password is the most common, and a lot of people use that already. These things are already built into the MQTT spec, and obviously like HiveMQ and other MQTT providers, they ensure that all of these things happen. The other thing is TLS security, which is ensuring that like the message is encrypted. The message as it's flowing through is absolutely encrypted. Certificate-based authorization and encryption is also important. Again, working with other like key factor authentication, for example, other players in the space. This is where I think like going beyond just your sandbox and working with other security providers in the space really enhances things, because they are the experts when it comes to security. We are the experts when it comes to data movement, right? It has to be a good marriage between all of these different technologies, instead of like each of us kind of like developing our own things, because we're only going to get so much deep when it comes to security, right? We can try to do as much as possible that the spec is providing and do a little bit more, but we're never going to get the same level of security features as some of the security vendors are providing, like a Fortinet, for example, right? All the features that they provide or Sage.
Sure.
That is also here. So my thing is that, again, going back to the key learning and the key aha moment for me here is that work with more vendors, make that architecture more streamlined, provide that to customers, make it less difficult for them to adopt these technologies so everybody can benefit out of this.
Got it. Thank you. Now, another thing that I've seen here is sustainability, a key topic as well. And I'm curious, obviously we can go a lot of different directions, but I'm curious in the MQTT, how does that contribute to development of sustainable manufacturing practices and better data analytics for
No, absolutely. I think sustainability is absolutely important. I equate sustainability to automation in a lot of ways, right? If you can actually like automate a lot of the tasks, so you don't need the employees to focus on those mundane tasks and make mistakes. Because if you make a mistake, that is actually going to cause more paper trails, which means that it's going to be less sustainable, right? If you can actually like reduce the paper usage, for example, right? I mean, if you can digitize a lot of your processes, that means that you don't have to have that much paper, right? You can be better suited, or you can be better Samaritans for the environment, for example, right? So that's another way we can help promote sustainability. And from a core usage perspective, right? A lot of oil and gas companies are actually going towards renewables. Right? Because they're focusing a lot on the renewables portfolio, not just because they want to be good citizens of the world, but it's also best practice for them, right? For them, it's more efficient for them to go into renewables in some cases than stick to the oil and gas field, right? So helping MQTT can help with some of those use cases by ensuring that you can do remote monitoring, you can do real-time information processing, and then enable your AI, ML in those fields. And all of these can combine together and provide better energy usage, which can also help with sustainability and just overall ensure that people are more efficient in how they go about doing their jobs.
Good insights. Thank you for that. And what are some of the challenges that you see in adoption of MQTT, for instance?
Yeah. So again, there is a learning curve, right? And one of the things I've been telling people that it is kind of like a very technical thing, and people are generally not as well informed about it, right? So they typically want to say, hey, can you provide me with all the solution that I need, right? Unfortunately, no one person has the magic bullet, or the silver bullet, as they call it, right? So there is some amount of education that's needed. And this is where I think working with a system integrator really helps, because system integrators, solution providers, and consultants, they already have the relationship with customers, right? So they've done projects for them in the past. And by us kind of like working with them and creating a solution stack, which has HiveMQ as a part of it, which has like a Litmus as a part of it, which has HiByte as a part of it, or Tulip as a part of it, and then going and telling them that, hey, this is kind of like a reference architecture. Let's kind of like help the customers out here, right? And going through them, the customers are more likely to adopt it than each of the individual vendors trying to go to customers, because it confuses them. And what happens is like the sales cycle becomes longer. They might like our solution, but they are still waiting to get like maybe some other solution from some other vendor, maybe like a digital workbench or like a MES solution. So that kind of like makes us like really slow down our sales cycles. By going through SIs, by going through partners that are proven, you can actually make it better for the partners, of course, and it makes it better for us, because we'll actually get like steady sales through that as well. And let's not forget the service business, because there is a whole new world around the service and professional services and support that we can also monetize.
Thanks for the insights. As you're going through this and different vendors leveraging the data that sort of MQTT helps brings it perhaps in the cloud.
Yeah.
One of the comments I have from an end user is like, well, it's almost like I'm going back 30 years where I had data silos, but now I have cloud to deal. So I put it, are we there, and what's the answer to that? How do you get them now all of these solutions there in the cloud? We have them to share data and not have the data silos.
No, absolutely. And also like, do we want to get all the data on the cloud? Because cloud storage is not cheap. Ingress into the cloud is not cheap. Egress is not cheap, right? So do we want all of the data? And that's why if you look at it like these days, you have very sophisticated edge solutions where a lot of the processing can happen at the edge. So not all the data needs to go on the cloud, right? So one of the things that HiveMQ did, for example, is we have this new product called Data Hub, which is all about ensuring that the data quality is high. And that also includes being able to have some checks on like the data ranges that you want to have. Say, hey, you have a range of temperature. I only care about like anything between 3 degrees Celsius to say 30 degrees Celsius. Anything outside of that range, I don't care, right? Imagine all of this data going to the cloud, and then you have to like go through the cloud and clean that up. That's much costlier. Or ingressing all of the data and then throwing it away is like it's stupid to do that, because you're paying money for something that you're going to like throw away, right? This is where I think edge solution comes into play to make sure that the right data gets to the cloud. Now, there are going to be reservations against the cloud. We cannot stop that, right? I'm surprised, though, based on talking to a lot of oil and gas customers, how much cloud adoption has happened, right? They are actually more farther ahead on the cloud than we all thought, right? Which is great, right? But the question is, like, how are they doing it? How efficiently are they doing it? Are they doing it for the sake of doing it, or are they doing it because they actually need it, right? And this is where I think like a combination of the different vendors coming together, along with the hypervisor partners, as well as the SI partners, have to come together and say, what makes best sense for the customer? Which cloud solution makes the best solution? For example, one of the arguments we have for HiveMQ or other MQTT brokers, independent brokers, is that we can be more democratic about the data, right? You can use whatever cloud solution that you need for your use case. Maybe you want to do Kafka for like streaming analytics. Maybe you want to use Azure Databricks for some analytics. You want to use AWS for some other use case. But by just going with the hyperscalers, you are actually stuck to their ecosystem, right? You're forced to use, and one of the vendors or one of the end solution providers or customers that I talked to, they mentioned that they are an Azure house, and when you go to them and say, hey, can we also use some of the solution? They say, no, we'll build it for you. We'll build it for you. But then it takes time for them to build it, right? They don't have a ready-made solution. So who suffers? The customers suffer, right?
Right. And I know we're going to be talking in a couple of weeks or less than a couple of weeks next week about the ROI of an IoT deployment.
Yes.
Maybe
Yes.
This is February 13. Just a quick plug. What can we expect on February 30? And can you share some insight on how MQTT plays a crucial role in scaling its IoT deployments for improved ROI?
No, absolutely. First of all, would like to give a shout out to IoT World for doing the survey. This is the third year that we've done this survey. It's all about trying to understand the IoT landscape, right? Trying to understand what are some of the challenges around IoT. Why is, even though the initial rollouts are successful, why doesn't it scale beyond that? What are some of the key technologies from a connectivity perspective? What are some of the aspects of the IoT strategy, for example? Which teams are typically involved? When I talk to different teams, they say, hey, we're from the IT side of the world. We're from the OT side of the world. Oh, we're in a team that has OT and IT together. So, right, which teams are the most successful when it comes to IoT projects being successful? How much of leadership push and having an IoT strategy from top down important for IoT projects to succeed, if you will, right? What sort of cloud platforms are used? Is it Azure, AWS, combination of the two, multi-cloud? So those are the kinds of questions that we asked, and we got some great insights. And the 13th event is going to be all about discussing that, right? And then discussing some of the aspects of it, including ROI, what are the key things around ROI, cybersecurity, what are some of the challenges around that, and how to overcome that. So we're going to have an excellent panel, and we're going to have Hamish, who is the recently a board member of IoT World. He's going to be coordinating. He's fantastic. He's a moderator. And then we have, of course, HiveMQ. I'm going to be there from a HiveMQ perspective. We're going to have Opto22 participate in that. They are a partner of ours on the hardware side. And there's going to be an end customer named LEC, which is a end customer of HiveMQ that is in the utility space. So it's going to be, and of course, let's not forget the standardization body. So Frederick from Eclipse Foundation is going to be there to talk about, hey, what does standardization have to do with all this, and what role does Sparkplug and MQTT play around this? So it's going to be a great discussion, so please be there. And Lucian, you can maybe share the information with your listeners as well.
We'll share the link in the description also. I'm looking forward to it. It's one of the descriptions that it will be ideal because it has multiple perspectives. You heard about the association perspective on standardization. We heard about a former analyst from IDC. We heard about end user, a partner. So looking forward to that. Now, if you're watching this, who should be in the audience, right? We have about 600 people already registered. But I'm curious, who should be in the audience?
Yeah, I think anybody that's looking at an IoT project, right, and then trying to figure out, hey, how to make sure that this project will succeed, right? What are the key things that I need to think about to ensure my project is successful? Like you said, there's going to be multiple perspectives around that. You're going to have LEC that recently had a successful IoT project launch through HiveMQ, giving their perspective. You're going to get that end user perspective. You're going to get the perspective of a standards body. Hey, if I'm considering the solution, how much of standardization should I try to bring in my solution? People who are thinking about that.
Sure.
And also people who are thinking about, hey, which vendors do I need to be associated with, right? And who do I need to work with? What are some of the best practices from that perspective? So those are the kinds of people that need to be there. I mean, I would say leadership teams that are looking into it, and also more of the people, the core IoT project owners within the OT or the IT teams. Those are the people that should listen to this.
Thank you for that insight. Thanks for spending time with us. And if you're in the audience, like I said, leverage the hashtag you see on the screen. It's IoT_world. It's HiveMQ_IoT.
Right.
Or if you're here in Orlando still, you can still see the HiveMQ team in a booth there.
Yeah, booth 18.
Booth
Please
18.
come in, yeah.
Look forward to see you next week. Post those questions. We're going to take them into the conversation, so the sooner you post, we're going to bring them into the moderator of the conversation.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lucian, for your time. And thank you, listeners, for listening in.